Stand by for Bwana.org radio. In 3, 2, 1. Cue the announcer.
You found Bwana.org radio, your one source for tech news and reviews. Now, almost live from sunny Florida, here's your host, Bwana McCall.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to episode 256 of Bwana.org radio. I want to thank everybody for coming by today. Today is November 6, 2012, Election Day in the United States, and I imagine most of you have gone out and voted for your candidate of choice. And you know, Bwana.org radio is not a political show, so I'm just going to leave that right there. We're going to talk about tech, and Bwana.org radio has been a show that's been going on for quite some time. In case you're a first-time listener, what we do here at Bwana.org radio is we scour the web. We try to find the best tech news to talk about, and we do it twice a week. And sometimes we have about 5 to 6 shows, and sometimes we'll have a big show of like 10 to 12 stories. I said 5 to 6 shows, didn't I? 5 to 6 stories, or 10 to 12 stories. And we cover everything from gadgets, news, to software, to companies that, tech companies and rumors and things that shake up the market, social media. We talk about a lot of those topics. We don't talk about video games anymore. I have a separate show for that. So all of my gaming topics have been kind of segmented off. So if you're into video games, I encourage you to check out my podcast, Game Chat with Bwana. We got a great show lined up for episode 256 of Bwana.org radio.
It's time for Bwana.org radio's tech news for this week.
And for our first story, happy birthday. Happy birthday to Android. The Google-sanctioned birth OS, Android, turns 5 on November 5th. Wow, it's been 5 years. Can you remember? Some of you can. When Android first hit the market, Android 1.0 was on the T-Mobile G1 in the United States, but I think across the world it was known as the HTC Dream. That little phone was going to shake up the market. 3.2-inch display with a 3.15 megapixel camera and 192 megabytes of RAM. Android 1.0 was born, and I had the pleasure of reviewing this phone. I was a big iOS guy back then, reviewing a lot of apps and hardware and stuff. And I was like, let's see what this Android stuff is about. And I was mad. M-E-H apostrophe D. Mad. Yeah, the Android OS definitely needed some work when it first came out. And the first thing that jumped out to me, if you can go back and look at my reviews on my YouTube channel, the first thing that jumped out was that notification system, because I was like, okay, this is how you do it. And Apple has since caught on from that. And I was like, that was the thing I liked the most about the Android OS. But since then, we've gone all the way up to Android 4.2 over a 5-year period. This article over on slashgear.com, it talks about the progression of the hardware that Android has seen just over the 5-year period. It compares those specs of the HTC Dream to Google's latest announcement, the Nexus 4. You guys may remember me talking about that in a previous show. The Nexus 4 has a 4.7-inch HD display, compared to that 3.2-inch display. Has a quad-core processor, an 8 megapixel camera, and 2 gigabytes of RAM. And if you think back to the G1, it blows that away. So happy birthday, Android. You've come a long way since the 1.0 days. And you've definitely made a big dent into the market. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that market share in a bit. But happy birthday to Android. It turns 5 on November 12th, 2012. And for our next story, we're going to continue talking about Android. Yeah, 5 years old. And as of the third quarter of 2012, Android now powers 75% of all smartphones sold. And this article, I love the headline. It caught my attention because it got me thinking. It says, Android now powers 75% of all smartphones sold. Are we headed towards a Google monopoly? Oh, yes. So these figures state that 136 million Android handsets were sold, doubling last year's third quarter of 71 million. The market share was 49.2% last year. It's now almost 75%. And I can't help but say, wow. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but to actually see it happen, you still got to step back. And yeah, you say, Bwana, how you know that was going to happen? I think anybody with, a little bit of foresight saw that when you get companies A, C, D, F, G, H, M through Z to back a certain effort, that they have to succeed. They have to. We basically saw all these hardware companies come together and basically say, we're going to take down Apple. That was the idea, because the iOS and iPhones and iPods were rampant 5 years ago. Everywhere. And they still are. I'm not saying iOS is dead. But these companies all said, we're going to do Android. And we're going to beat Apple. And I looked at that and I was like, well, Apple, probably sees what I see. So they're probably saying, well, 5 years, Android's going to have a majority of the market share. I don't think Apple's surprised by this. I'm not surprised. But that doesn't belittle the accomplishment, because it is a major accomplishment to go from 5 years from 0 to 75% of the market. That's unheard of. It's unheard of. And I think a lot of blog posts out there were quoting people, quoting articles, even quoting certain Apple people and Microsoft and RIM and people basically discounting Android. And you've heard me talk about it here before, how we're seeing similar statements with Windows Phone, how the same types of statements are being made. Android had the benefit of having all these companies on board with Motorola and with LG and HTC and Samsung and Sony and everybody pretty much, except for RIM and Nokia. I was going to say Symbian, but except for RIM and Nokia. Speaking of RIM and Nokia, on this same article, if you look at their change, their year-over-year change, BlackBerry dropped 34%, and Symbian OS dropped 77%. So guess who lost the most market share? Guess who Android gained market share from? All these guys who were on Nokia's phones are now using Androids. I mean, I think that's what they took the biggest chunk from. Now, Apple's numbers actually increased 57%. I mean, any other company would be like, wow, we increased 57% year over year. Let's have a party. There's no reason to be upset. That is amazing. And Google, 75% now, a year over year change of 91%. iOS Sound says, hey, Bwana, I'm still over here. Windows Phone is on this chart, but it doesn't really matter. But it is an amazing story, guys. Check this out. It's over in Extreme Tech. Android, happy birthday, first off. But wow, you are big time in the market. Now, the article goes on to state this whole monopoly thing. And let's talk about that for a minute. It forecasts, this article does, that if the trend continues, that we may see an Android market share of 90% by the end of 2013, which is going to come a lot sooner than you think. Just like Microsoft's share of the desktop PC. And that M word comes up. And the Department of Justice is, kind of looms overhead. Hey, guys, you're doing a little bit too well there. We got to encourage competition. We can't have a monopoly. So what happens if Google crosses that threshold? Well, some of you might say, well, Bwana, Android is open source. The whole argument about monopoly is null and void. Well, the article goes on to say some stuff about that. It says, you may point to the fact that Android is open source, thus making such a monopoly rather toothless. This might be theoretically true, but in practice, Google still holds all the keys. Yes, if Google goes off the rails, another company or group could take up the slack, but when you're dealing with hundreds of millions of devices and relationships with thousands of OEMs and mobile carriers, it isn't like Google can just be pushed aside. Can you really see people giving up Google Android for Open Android and losing access to hundreds of thousands of apps, Google Drive, Gmail, etc.? Now, just think about that for a minute. If you talk to anyone who really, really loves Androids, at least the ones that I talk to, they gravitate towards the Google sanctioned devices. The devices that are customed, very, very customized, they're kind of shunned amongst the Android faithful because delays are, things are delayed and sometimes things are unstable. So that argument really comes up again. That question comes up again, and it does hold some water. What if Android does become a monopoly? Google is going to be the hive mind of this. They're going to be the overseer. They're going to be they're going to be the overlord. If you play StarCraft, watching over the minions, the Google Android minions, they're going to be the overlord. So will Google become the company to hate simply because they're holding all the cards? Will Google be the company that they claim they're not with their "don't be evil" mantra, which a lot of us know, which is complete nonsense. Come on, guys, see through the smoke and mirrors. A company says "don't be evil," and they do what Google does to succeed. Nah. You can't be both. I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole separate soapbox. Now, I don't say I hate Android. I don't. And it's not like I'm saying if Google, if this happens, that we're all going to die through an Android apocalypse. No. But it is something to consider, and it is a highly, highly likelihood possibility. Just look at recently. Google announced a new tablet. All right, this is an area that Android has, quote unquote, been behind in for a while. The iPad mini comes out, iPad, and the next gen iPad comes out. Apple announces they break records. Nobody's surprised. But 3 million iPads sold, Apple didn't specify which of those were iPad minis or which of those were iPads. So that lock that Apple has on the tablet market isn't so locked anymore. People are considering Nexus 7s. People are considering Kindle Fires, which is what we should be. It should be competition. But what if that was flip-flop? What would you think would happen? Amazon doesn't have a phone. Windows Phone, everybody's saying is dead already, which I don't agree with, but that's what people want. RIM is jumping on Windows Phone. BlackBerry, RIM, they're promising something, but we don't know what. So that only leaves Android and Apple. And if Android takes over, where's the competition? Who's left? Something to think about. Check it out, guys. Over extremetech.com, they got the details. Android now powers 75% of all smartphones. What if that Google monopoly happens?
You're listening to Bwana.org Radio, a potpourri of tech news and reviews.
And for our next story, we're going to continue talking about Google. A little bit of a leak over at Google, not a physical water leak, or not a car leak, or not a leak in something physical. This is an information link, and this has to do with the Google Wallet. Google Wallet is Google's version of an online, money system. You can think of it like PayPal or Amazon payments. This is their version of it, Google Wallets. And those of you who play video games know about the Steam Wallet. Very simple thing that you basically charge money, or you put money in these accounts, and you can use them to make purchases physically or online. The reason I bring up the word physical is because Google Wallet has been hinted at, according to this leak, to have a physical credit card coming. An actual physical Google Wallet card may be coming. According to these images leaked by the Android police, this Google Wallet will allow users to charge money to this physical card and actually be able to swipe this card wherever credit cards are accepted. Also, the article states that in addition to the credit cards, this new wallet app that this particular leak is showing will also let users transfer money to other people. Sounds like PayPal, right? And hold a wallet balance, which is likely similar to the prepaid cards that we see. So those of you who are big on prepaid cards, I know I am. I use them for my Steam purchases primarily. It's a safe way of protecting your money online. Just doing a prepaid card, you don't have to, if somebody gets that card number, there's not much they can do with it if there's no money on it. So another thing that the card may have is transit cards. Essentially, this is for people who use like subways and rail lines. That Google Wallet, this Google Wallet card may support that. Now, a while ago, they were talking about getting an NFC jacket for iPhones, and iPhones don't have NFC right now, near field communications. These are the things that allow you to just put your phone next to something or just, tap it and it'll automatically charge or take money out of your account. These things scare the life out of me. I don't like them at all. But essentially, they were talking about making a sleeve for an iPhone, and you'll be able to insert a Google Wallet card into the sleeve and do near-field communications. The near-field communications, I don't know if you guys ever saw this show. It was called, what was that on? I think it was on NCIS. Yes, NCIS, one of my favorite shows on television, because they try to do tech. They've got some things wrong. You guys have seen the infamous video on YouTube where two people are typing on the same keyboard, which was just hilarious. But a lot of their stuff is dead on. And they were talking about near-field communications, how a person can walk up to your purse or walk up to your wallet, scan it, not even touch you, just scan it, get the information, and be able to use your card. So basically, they caught a shoplifter who was doing this. But this is a show about terrorism and just the Navy Crime Investigational Services, and this person apparently swiped the card of a known terrorist or a known person of interest, and they saw the card swipe and they thought that was the person, but she had basically just swiped, just basically used like a wand type deal. And I may be getting that wrong. I may remember incorrectly. I haven't seen that episode in a long time. But I do remember that being an example of near-field communication. So this Google Wallet, coupled with this iPhone jacket, may do something similar to that. And I don't want it. I, for one, am against near-field communications. You heard it here first. Bwana.org radio is not on board the near-field communications bandwagon. No, I don't like it, man. It's way too easy to exploit. I'm always looking for ways for people to exploit systems. And we have things like a physical credit card in your pocket that doesn't have NFC enabled. They would have to physically get that card or know the numbers or hack the numbers. If something can just be obtained over the air without your knowledge, just by bumping up against somebody or being close to them, people are going to find a way. And it's going to be, and identity theft is going to be more rampant than before. We got to watch these trade-offs for convenience, because they can really put a damper on it. But not to knock Google Wallet, this card does sound interesting. Minus the NFC stuff, this might be something I consider, because I do similar things today. But this is with the Google ecosystem, so maybe pretty cool with Google Store And with more and more people accepting Google Wallet and Google Payments, and if it actually has a Visa or MasterCard number, you won't have to worry about this site accepting PayPal or whatnot. That's what I like about my PayPal card. If they don't accept PayPal, I do have a PayPal debit card that I can use. So Google's going the same route. Google's going the same route. Check it out, guys. This looks to be true because I've seen some related articles that pointed to a Google website, support help site, which actually refers to a Google Wallet card. So it's all but confirmed that this thing is in development. Over on GottaBeMobile.com, they got the details over there. And for our next story, we're going to talk about Microsoft. Microsoft, with their Windows 8 transformation, has also done something that I didn't think they'd ever do. You guys remember the MSN Messenger from way back? I mean, we're going way back. MSN Messenger. And then it got changed. The name got changed to Windows Live Messenger. It was basically Microsoft's competitor to AOL Instant Messenger and Yahoo Messenger and all these other messengers that came out. And then Jabber came out, the Jabber protocol, which Google embraced with Google Talk. So today, it was confirmed that Microsoft's going to be discontinuing Windows Live Messenger. You may not be surprised, but this might surprise you. They're going to replace it with Skype. Oh, so it all makes sense. Those of you who use Windows 8 and have installed the Windows 8 version of Skype know what I'm talking about. The first thing they ask you when you install Skype and log in is they ask you for your Windows ID. And you're like, what? What does this have to do with anything? I was like, huh? And so you log in with your Windows ID and it says, do you want to merge your contacts with Skype? And I'm like, why in the world would you want to do that? It all makes sense. Windows Live Messenger is going away. And pretty much everyone is going to be migrated from Windows Live Messenger to Skype. So if you hate Skype and you use Windows Live Messenger, it's not a good day for you. You probably should look for another messenger program. So Microsoft has officially confirmed that it will be moving to Skype full-time for its messaging app on Windows. Very interesting. Now, lots and lots of people use Skype. I personally use Skype for talking with family and some other things, like if I have to make some phone calls for work and in certain situations. And, it's a decent app. I mean, it's got its problems, but all in all, it's very simple to use and lots and lots of people like to use it. And it's easy for family members to catch on. And, if they can hook up a webcam, you can easily get some video calls going cross-platform, whether it be iOS, whether it be Android, whether it be Windows. And I believe it does have some Linux support. I'm not sure about all the Linux support, but I believe there is some there. It does work on Mac as well. So it's a good cross-platform messaging, video messaging app, which is adding lots of new features. So Microsoft is dropping Windows Live Messenger. So which is more impactful? Is it Microsoft dropping Live Messenger or that they're replacing it? I haven't seen this very often. I haven't seen Microsoft replace one of their core apps with a third-party app. They're just replacing it. Very, very interesting. Check it out, guys. Over on slashgear.com, they got the details. Microsoft confirms it's moving to Skype from Windows Live Messenger. For our next story, HP Hewlett-Packard officially becomes a platinum member of the Linux Foundation. This article comes by way of Engadget.com. HP has shelled out $500,000, $500,000, and by way has become a platinum member of the Linux Foundation. They're on the top table now. They're sitting alongside companies like Intel, Qualcomm, and Samsung. So they get a seat on the foundation's board of directors and will have a say in how to advance the foundation's aims. So as a lot of you don't know, HP does sell servers. giant, gargantuan servers. And a majority of them, a lot of them do have HP UX on there, but a lot of them also have Linux. And a few years ago, there was a big Linux boom, and it's still kind of going on, where, these servers are bundled with Linux. So HP does have a viable vested interest into this. Now, I am an HP employee, disclaimer. I have no inside knowledge or know-how about the hardware division because I'm in HP software division. Big company. So I have no idea what's going on over there. Even if I did, I couldn't say what was going on. This is purely Bwana's opinionated dribble. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing overall that a big company like HP would put that much money into the Linux Foundation, especially these days when everybody's about Android and everybody's about Windows 8. And HP does, it's a big company. I say we because I'm an employee, but support Windows 8 as well. And that whole thing about WebOS, which is a thorn in the side of HP backers, we saw an exciting time when HP bought Palm. And WebOS was going to take the web by storm, and then it just kind of fizzled. But HP has been keeping its promise about keeping Open Web OS alive. So WebOS is not completely dead by any means. But this is encouraging. $500,000 to become a member of the Linux Foundation. Check it out, guys. Engadget has a story.
You found Bwana.org Radio. Tech news and tech gadgets for the hardcore geek in all of us.
Do you use Instagram? I talked about this in a previous show. You may have seen Instagrammed photos. If you see a photo with sepia tones on it, there's a high chance that someone did not do that in Photoshop. They probably used an automatic filter in this in this mobile app called Instagram. This easy to use mobile app, which is very, very popular, allows you to take photos and apply these simple filters and share them with your friends on Facebook. Instagram was acquired by Facebook a few months ago for $1 billion. Yeah, that's how big mobile is, guys. Instagram has announced today that they have enabled web profiles. So now you can see all of your Instagram photos on the internet, on the web, simply by going to Instagram.com/your username. This is being slowly rolled out over its users starting yesterday. I checked mine, Instagram.com/Bwana, and it was there. It's a pretty neat looking profile. And this is kind of daunting for some of the companies out there that built web interfaces around the Instagram photos. Because I used to go to these other sites that allowed you to see Instagram photos on the internet, on the web, because this is primarily a mobile app. So this web profile is going to allow you to comment and like and share photos from mobile devices. And you don't even have to have an Instagram account, which is pretty cool if you want to share with people who don't use the service, which prior to this, wasn't that possible. You could share it on Twitter, but there's not much people could do if they weren't on Instagram. But the core features of the program, the core features of Instagram, taking photos and applying filters and adding photos, is strictly going to stay mobile. It is not going to the web. This is more of a glass pane, if you will. A read-only view, not a read-only, you can comment, but a view into the photos that are so popular with Instagram. This quote from the article from the company says that you've asked for Instagram on the web and we've listened. Pretty simple quote, right? People wanted the web presence of Instagram and now they have it. Now they have it. So you'll see sepia toned and Instagram photos with all these different effects and all kinds of pictures of food. There's a great meme photo I saw where a whole bunch of guys had their giant DSLR phones with these expensive lenses They were all sitting at the food table, taking pictures of their food. Every single one of them. And it had some kind of a saying about, I'm going to post this to Instagram. Oh, boy. Very, very funny. But congratulations to Instagram for launching their web presence. Now you'll be able to see your favorite photos on Instagram from your web browser. Check it out over on giggleom.com. They got the details over there. And for our final story, we're going to talk about Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime, which is one of my favorite services that I am a member of. I pay the $79 a year to get free 2-day shipping. You have no idea how much money you save if you buy a lot of stuff from Amazon and you get free 2-day shipping on a lot of things. You don't get it on everything, but you get on a lot of things. You also get access to Amazon Instant Video, which is something that I'm growing more and more fond of as they're adding more content. It's basically replaced Netflix, and I don't have Hulu Plus, although I am eyeing them, given that they have Hulu Plus and they have Netflix apps on Windows 8, but they don't have an Amazon Instant Video. Anyway, this story over on slashgear.com talks about how Amazon Prime is now getting a monthly option. Yes, a monthly option. Up until this announcement, Amazon Prime was only a yearly thing. $79 a year. But you can pay a little bit more over the long term to get, a taste of it. $7.99 a month. $7 a month. You can get Amazon Prime, where you get access to instant video. You get free 2-day shipping. And something I really haven't taken advantage of is you get instant access to this Kindle borrowed library thing. So it's kind of like a library card, if you will, with Kindle apps. So this year's membership is going to cost you $95. I mean, this monthly over a year period is going to cost you $95. So if you opt for the monthly fee, you're going to be paying $15 or $16 more than if you pay yearly. I think I'm going to stick with yearly. I am very happy with the service. See no reason to stop it. It's not something I want to pay monthly anyway. This is kind of like something you want to invest in, because I buy things from Amazon, a lot of things. I think I talked about this on Game Chat with Bwana before the reboot of Bwana.org Radio. We were talking about how Best Buy had lost a lot of sales over the last year, and I was asking people, I was like, when's the last time you bought something from Best Buy? And the chat room was like, oh, I go to Newegg and I go to Amazon. I'm like, yeah, me too. I go to Amazon. I get like almost everything from Amazon now. They're like, I was talking to my wife today. I said, they're like the Walmart of the internet. You can get anything up there. And I do mean anything. Due to their extensive partnerships with a lot of other stores on the internet, you can go through Amazon and get just about anything. It's got a rich, robust community, great reviews. It's easy to use. Amazon is one of those great services on the web. So you now have an option to get Amazon Prime monthly, $7, 99 cents a month. Check it out over on slashgear.com. And that concludes our show for episode 256 of Bwana.org Radio. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Bwana, or you can follow me on Google Plus at google.com/+Bwana. That's the plus sign, plus Bwana. I'm also on app.net/Bwana. You can follow me there as well. This podcast will be posted at radio.bwana.org and is also cross-posted on YouTube, on youtube.com/IOBuffer, which is where I do videos, gameplay, clips, Game Chat with Bwana, radio.bwana.org, and more to come very soon on my YouTube channel. So subscribe there and support me, will you? That would be awesome. All right, guys, have a great day. That concludes episode 256 of Bwana.org Radio, and I will see you next time.